Hello and welcome. The clocks are striking Pauper and we're here with another challenge with Red-White Monarch, trying to run it back again, and I have a mulligan here, but my opponent has also mulliganed, and this looks like a keep for our round 1 match on the draw against Logic, which I think leans towards Delver decks if I remember correctly, but I'm not quite certain. And this looks like something I want to keep to make my creature top decks a little bit better and get to Metalcraft for my Galvanic Blast. No, I didn't warm up today. I slept in a little bit and then watched the GP, the standard GP, and then went right into the challenge action. So going live in the first action of the day is round 1. And end of turn brainstorm with no Ash Barrens on the upkeep is kind of a weak action by my opponent. And this could still be Mono Blue Delver or Tireless Tribe, though the way that my opponent played so far looks a little bit more like Tireless Tribe. I guess against both decks I'm just running out Prophetic Prism here. If they counterspell, that's perfectly alright with me. And it is a spell that dodges Spellstutter Sprite still, so I'm not too worried about running it into my opponent's 2 open mana. And they still know most of my hand. These 2 cards are unknown, and these 4 they have seen off of Cataxian Probe, so I have to be aware of that when planning my plays. Okay, so with Plains revealed, it is clear to me that my opponent is on Tireless Tribe, and they now have their mana base set up perfectly, but they seem to not have a tribe yet, or want to slow roll it even further, try generating card advantage with Augur of Bolas and prepare their hand so that they have enough protection for it open, because they know about this journey and this Galvanic Blast. So if they don't have Circular Logic in their hand, it makes no sense to run out the tribe into my removal spell. This beats watching standard, glad you think so, Zerlik, and thank you for the cheer. And also thank you to Searsist for the host. And I hope this church bell ringing is going to stop soon, but that's the problem. The start of the challenge always coincides with the beginning of the church's mass, so they celebrate with me that we get to play some Pauper. I don't think I need to worry about this Augur at all, and I would like to find some creatures, so I think I'll Faithless Looting here. The Zen's Enlistment is kind of an easy discard, and I don't have a clean second discard because I'm interested in keeping all of my removal spells. And the 4th land is also kind of useful. So Zen's Enlistment I'm going to pitch. Bojuka Bog actually has some application in this matchup because it makes it more difficult for my opponent to use Circular Logic. If you run out Bojuka Bog first, clear their graveyard, and then cast your spell that you want to resolve afterwards, and the amount of cards they have in their graveyard is low, and therefore they can't really make you pay all that much more with Circular Logic. So I will discard one of my lands. I think the Core Skyfish is my play for this turn, and I just have to decide whether I want an untapped land or discard one of the, I like keep this for its effect but it's tapped, or keep one of the untapped lands as my third and fourth land. Yeah, I think I like the Bojuka Bog. Actually, having multiple white is not that important here, so let's pitch the plains. Casting multiple red spells in turn is going to be more important to me. Also, you do have to watch your time in this matchup, so I already took a little bit more time on this Faithless Looting than I'm comfortable with, though my opponent showed up a little bit late to the round, so they are also not in the most comfortable time situation. Okay, so now I will go for this Bojuka Bog into Journey play that makes it difficult for my opponent to Circular Logic to protect the tribe, so I'm very likely to just get tribe off of the board. And then I can even reuse this Bojuka Bog with the Boros Garrison later. And it's pretty much free to start attacking for me. Also very fortunate that this Augur of Bolas missed. They even preordained before it, but they bottomed some cards so they couldn't keep a guaranteed Augur hit on top of their library, and whenever that misses it's much better for you, obviously. This looks like a Gush trying to desperately look for a backup Tireless Tribe, but it is very difficult for my opponent to keep enough protection open when they reduce their land count in the mid to late game. Pauper Monarch, yes. It is the best mechanic in the Pauper format. The best source of card advantage, so. And arguably the best deck as well. Yeah, it's Mardu if you want to call that. I even have one black card in my deck somewhere. So arguably it's Mardu Monarch. I'll have to write a correction for misleading journalism. Yeah, exactly, the Storm Disentomb. Okay, so now my opponent has another tribe, but it's very difficult for them to combo because they don't have enough islands in play to protect their combo attempts. So I think I'm just going to run out Prism and then Boros Garrison. The Ancient then is likely going to be discarded to Faithless Looting later on. This is interesting though. I think one protection spell should be enough. The only way that can backfire is if my opponent has Daze or Giga Draws, I guess. Giga Draws is one of the scariest cards in the matchup, but because I can Ancient, then Glinthawk, then build my board a little bit more and keep 2 mana open so I don't die to Giga Draws. That seems alright actually. Expert tribe player, yeah. Faithless Looting is an amazing card, and it doesn't see a lot of play in Monarch, but I think it should see more play than it does. Okay, I think for that reason I'm actually going with Glinthawk and playing my untapped land so that I can keep 2 mana open and make sure I don't die to Giga Draws or Daze. Giga Draws and Daze in combination could kill me, but not one of those alone. Because my opponent needs to spend 3 mana on their combo, 2 mana for the Inside Out, and then 1 mana for Shadow Rift to get through my Glinthawk. And Giga Draws could only deny me 1 mana, so I still have 1 piece of protection open. And same thing, if they spend 3 mana on a combo and I only have 1 mana open to interact with, then they could Daze me. Here I keep 2 mana open and I feel a lot safer that way. The big downside is that I don't get my Bojuka Bog replayed as quickly, so their Circular Logic is going to be a little bit better for the time being. Still feels important to put pressure on my opponent so they can't make all their land drops and build up to a hand where they have multiple pieces of protection open. So getting my creature on the board felt important. I only need to leave one blocker back every turn. I can even Bojuka block them this turn by bouncing it with Skyfisher. But that is just setting myself back a little bit. Getting Prophetic Prism onto the board and then Skyfishing it seems a little bit greedy though. I can do either just the Skyfisher with no Prism or just the Prism with no Skyfisher. I think I like Skyfisher, no Prism. This is not usually how you play these Skyfishers. I'm losing out on value here. But my burn in hand also makes it so that I'm very close to just burning out my opponent. So I guess Galvanic Blast technically needs another artifact to have its full effect. But I'm putting my opponent down to 10 here, and then next turn I'm putting them down to potentially 4 with a full attack, so my burn spells end up being lethal. Though I don't think that's the line I'm really going to go for, because my opponent could then still just dispel one of my burn spells, untap and kill me. Another Desperation Gush. Okay, my opponent's situation here is pretty awful. And they even know about both of my burn spells, I think. They for sure... No, I think they don't know about the Lightning Bolt, but they do know about the Galvanic Blast. But yeah, if you constantly keep resetting your land drops, it's very difficult for you to have enough mana for Circular Logic and Dispel on your combo turn. The game plan that Tribe wants to go for is hit land drops until they have 5 or 6 islands in play, cast Giga Draws for 5 to 6 permanents, tapping me out, and then kill me on the turn where I don't have any protection open. But yeah, if you constantly have to gush to make your draw work, it's pretty awful out of the Tribe perspective. Yeah, if I really need gas, or especially if I get my opponent close to being burned out, I can look for another burn spell off of the Faceless Looting as well. Though I did reduce my own mana available here a little bit as well, so if I flash this back I don't have enough mana to cast 3 burn spells in the same turn. But yeah, pretty desperate situation here for my opponent, because this is like the last turn that they can combo. Because next turn they only have access to 3 mana once again, so they can beat 0 hate cards with 3 mana. Unless they have Giga Draws available and I get greedy, I don't think I can lose. Yeah, thank you, CM Day Walt. Yeah, that resolves. Commander Daywalt? No, whatever. Sure, that resolves as well. So now they have 1 piece of protection open, but they can't beat my 2 pieces of interaction. Though I guess my opponent only knows about the Galvanic Blast, so it's reasonable for them to try this. And they also have no other choice. If they go to their next turn, after having gushed down to 1 island, they can't really retry next turn. They don't have the time. So this is correct by my opponent, but it's not going to work. Okay, let's cast the Galvanic Blast that they know about. Even though that has... I guess it was... whatever. Probably I should lead on the bolt, but it doesn't really make a difference. I have to cast both to try and beat their Dispel here, and then we win regardless. Okay, so now the interesting part is, depending on whether the Tribe player has the Michael Jacob transformational sideboard, or if they have a traditional sideboard, like the one Hellotech runs, you want to board completely different cards. Pyroblast and Serrated Arrows are good every time, basically. Daywalt, yeah. CM Daywalt. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, welcome to the stream. and glad you can be here to watch it live. So against the all-in combo version, you want like Electricity, Standard Bearer, and yeah, those are good to hate out the combo. And against the MJ sideboard, you want like Relic of Progenitus to deal with their Stormbound Geist, and like Core Sanctifiers to deal with their Spire Golem. So these are always coming in, and then this is a matter of what is my opponent doing. And same thing here, against the combo version, you would want to have these in the deck and board this out. So like this would come out for this. And against the transformational version, these would come out for this. So some very different cards that you can cut. So let's see, first we make room for these 6 cards that we're bringing in for sure. I think this can come out. Journeys are kind of awkward because they run into Leave No Trace, even though they're super important to deal with your opponent's Stormbound Geists. They have trouble against like Leave No Trace because they can at end of turn destroy your enchantments, and then their creatures come back like either in combat or they untap and combo you. I guess we want to cut down on the number of these. I think in the dark I'm going to board for the MJ sideboard, even though that has some risk attached to it. And I think against him I boarded out all of the Glintalks to make room for this, then kept the Reaping the Graves in my deck. And Standard Bearer is actually pretty awful against that sideboard because your opponent has serrated arrows of their own. I guess 2 Sentinels could be okay. Sentinels are kind of risky because your opponent can cast Shadow Rift and then steal them from you, steal the Monarch from you, and you can't always afford to attack back. But yeah, this version of the sideboard plan is still pretty good against the combo version because we still have 12. Oh no, I guess we have 8 ways of killing a tribe on the combo turns with Lightning Bolt and Galvanic Blast, and then some Pyroblasts to counter the Inside Out and counter my opponent's Dispels. So I don't think this is making us too vulnerable to the combo, but something like turn 1 or turn 2 tribe is a lot more scary if I have fewer answers in my deck than it would be with the anti-all-in version of the sideboard. Like I don't have any Standard Bearers or something. If my opponent runs out tribe on turn 2 and then has kill with Dispel Protection on turn 3 or something, we might sometimes be dead to that. Yeah, they were missing combo pieces most likely. Also, they, like if they think they're not beating 2 burn spells in my hand regardless because I can just burn out their face, then it makes sense to just go for the combo as well. Because either they get burned out because I kill them, or they get burned out because their combo is stopped, and it doesn't really make much of a difference. So if those cards are unbeatable, then why not hope your opponent doesn't have them? Okay, Stormbound guys, that is pretty unfortunate for me because I don't currently, like I want to Pyroblast this when my opponent puts it on this deck, and I failed to do that here because my draw was kind of awkward in terms of mana development. I can try to Pyroblast it and then Relic of Progenitus the graveyard away with the Undying trigger on this deck later on. But my spot here is pretty bad. I think I'll run out Prism and try to hit my 3rd land, but if I don't hit a land, I'm discarding to hand size. God damn it. Yeah. I mean, I would keep it again, but we kept a 7-card hand with 2 lands, and then in 4 draw steps, or I guess 5 draw steps. In 5 draw steps, I saw 0 lands. That's unfortunate. Geist does combo well with arrows. That is a combo that my opponent's deck frequently uses. Man, this is awful. This is not where you want to be. Guess it's time to replay this and then get the relic on the board. But like every turn that I'm missing land drops and have to tap out for something, I lose the ability to Pyroblast what my opponent's doing. I would have really preferred to have Pyroblasted these Starboard guys. Yeah, I guess I'll block. They get a bigger one back, but I can inside out, sure. It is bad for me, but not much I can do. I guess I could have taken 4 here and waited until I have mana open. But yeah, it's very difficult for me to have protection mana open because I'm missing so many land drops. Shit. I think the matchup is very favorable, especially now that I have figured out how to deal with this transformational version of the sideboard. I think my new sideboard plan against it is actually pretty good. Yeah, I guess I get this off of the board before my opponent can have Dispel protection open or try to like try to dispel my Pyroblast or something. Finally finding a land was very helpful. Guess now I can even afford to bounce one of these prisms. There's not a lot of blue cards left in my opponent's deck that I really have to counter while they're on the stack. Like there's probably only one Stormbound Geist or maybe even 0. Countering Augurs or Bolas is slightly useful, but mostly I just want this for my opponent's counter spells as a dispel of my own. So I don't really need to worry about keeping Pyroblast open now that these Stormbound Geists have already happened. Wow, that is awful for my opponent. As soon as I hit a land, yes. Ah, damn, I forgot to use this, right? They should have one less card in their graveyard. I'm not really going to catch up to their graveyard. I think I will just have to sacrifice it at some point. But still, it is sloppy to not use it. And I should be doing that. Though arguably the time that I lose on doing it every time is not worth it even. I think this should definitely not be in my opponent's deck, if they have any understanding of how the transformational sideboard works. Well, this is annoying for me, but I can once again just Pyroblast it down, then exile the relic, which is okay. If I find a land, I can... Oh no, never mind, I need one more land to deal with both of their Stormbound Geists. Because I could like arrows down one of these, the Undying triggers, then Pyroblast down the other one, Undying trigger triggers, and then Relic of Progenitors their graveyard and get rid of both. And I guess long term that is my plan. This deals with their Spire Golems, which is pretty great. Okay, just get the second arrows on the board, I think. Becoming the Monarch now seems a little bit risky. They just Shadow Rift their Stormbound Geist and take it from me. And with the way I sideboarded, I do have inevitability in this matchup. They can no longer combo kill me really with double serrated arrows on the board. It's pretty much impossible. And I will eventually find a Reaping the Graves to give me overwhelming card advantage, which is a card that I boarded out the last time I faced Michael Jacob in the challenge 2 weeks ago, and it would have won me that game as well, so I learned my lesson there. Though you do have to watch your time as well. Okay, sure. It's possible I can even just like mill my opponent out by answering every relevant card in their deck, as long as you don't run into Stormbound Geist and Serrated Arrows interactions, allowing your opponent to get these back with Undying multiple times, then you're usually in a good spot. Okay, I guess get this off of the board. Now can try for the Stormbound Geist answer with the Relic. It could run into Dispel, but I guess want to do it now or wait a little bit? I guess this is trading with this spell regardless. Okay, so now we fought through all of my opponent's Stormbound Geists. And I think if they have 3 Stormbound Geists in their list, that makes it unlikely that they also have Guardian of the Guild Pact, which is one of the most scary cards my opponent could have to turn the matchup in their favor. Nice. Can I still make my land drop? No, I already did. Okay. Because then I could have Monarch now pretty freely. That's not how counters work. Someone discard a card to it in response to the arrows putting up. What? I don't get it. Oh, the tribe. Yeah. Yeah, they can save their tribe throughout their turn, but then as soon as I get into my turn, that just dies to state-based actions. So yeah, keeping tribe alive through serrated arrows is not something that is particularly productive. Unless you really want to discard the card for some other reason. Like you could circular logic or something, but sure, cycle your Shadow Rift. So yeah, if my opponent doesn't have Guardian of the Guild Pact in their deck, I feel like I can no longer lose really. I've beaten all the Stormbound Geists. I have an answer for Spire Golem still in my hand. I'm going to become the Monarch here on a pretty much safe board. And my opponent only has 2 or 3 tribes left, depending on whether they boarded one out, which they often do. And then I have basically 1 arrow counter for each of my opponent's tribes. So I think my practice games, if you want to call it that, I basically played against Michael Jacob every week that we were both in the challenge. Those games have given me an understanding of the matchup that is a little bit ahead of what my opponent of where my opponent was at. Might still be tough to beat MJ because he now is packing Guardian of the Guild Pact, which is a problem, and I can only really answer them with serrated arrows, and then I'm using up multiple serrated arrows on just a single creature. But yeah, both the game 1 and the post-board game things that my opponent did looked like they were kind of unexperienced with the deck. Okay, MJ isn't even in the tournament, okay.